who's paying attention. Who's
Yeah, I
watching.
think 5703.
Okay, I will open our morning workshop session. And our topic, at least for now, is in the matter of setting a formal policy for appointments and functions to boards. So I guess I'll open it up for discussion.
Well, Jake has made some edits in there, but before we go into there, I would like to hear your concerns, your ads, your.
The one that I don't necessarily, I'd like to hear people's thoughts on it. That was it, and understanding this was just a draft, something to react to.
Right.
Was the multiple, oh, I see, that was one of the, that you could not serve on more than one board. I know we have in the past, we've had folks that have served on more than one board. I don't know that that's been a big issue, but I do understand maybe the policy choice of, we want to have as broad, that there's opportunities for everybody, that you don't have a couple of folks that, I guess hog up, although it's not generally, that's not the problem. It's trying to get people to do it. And we've had some folks that are, really well qualified, and maybe they serve on one board that's a really light commitment, that it's a board that meets really irregularly. And I don't know that, I guess I'd have to be convinced why we should have a outright prohibition on that, it really should be up to the board to make that determination at the time they're doing the appointments. But I would like to hear from
And that's probably the best thing, is to pick one topic and then we can hash through that and then move on to the next thing. And so I think that's probably the most organized way to do it.
Okay.
I guess I would say my thinking with that is, we have a county with 24,000 people, and maybe 50 board assignments throughout the whole county. That I understand in the past it may have been hard to get people to sit on these boards, but I honestly don't think that we were looking hard. I think we were possibly looking at our own group of friends or acquaintances, and not necessarily reaching out to people we don't even know. And now, hopefully, this policy allows us to reach out to people we don't even know via Facebook, or posting it on our website, or posting it in the paper. And I think you're going to see a lot more people that have a broader view, that want to get involved. And I, in there, I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying somebody that's sitting in two positions right now doesn't continue to serve their term in those two positions. And then when they're up, they need to pick one to reapply for, and leave the other one off the table. But I guess that's kind of where I'm coming from on that. I think if we have just one view, if we have one person sitting on two boards, he or she has that same view of the county, and that same opinion, that it would be nice to have two different opinions.
Okay.
And they can just pick and choose which board they prefer to reapply to.
Commissioner Anderson.
Sorry, had that. The reason I have an issue with the straight only one person per board is that some of these boards and some of these positions, I know because I've tried to get people to serve on them through my previous role. Some of them are hard to get people to join in on. And more importantly, a lot of these boards are very technical in nature. And so in terms of these boards that you may have agency staff or something that's sitting on them, I would say that, each one of us serves on numerous boards. And if we can serve on numerous boards, why would somebody who's volunteering their time not be able to? Especially when they have technical expertise.
I would say for me, again, that the issue is not, I think I don't disagree with your sentiment about, we need to make sure we have a broad, and try to get as many voices as we can. I think that should always be the goal. I just don't like having necessarily the board's hands tied, that we can't, because there are some folks that are either they have technical expertise, they, as Jake says, or they just have institutional knowledge. And I think that should be our goal, is that we, and we can state that we, we try to do that, but I just don't like to not have the option, or at least have the discussion.
I can see that. I can see that. So I guess I would say, I understand that sometimes you're kind of, I hate to say don't have a choice, because you always have a choice, but I can see that argument. So I guess I would say if there's something in there, or even a gentleman's agreement, that we try not to. Same deal. If you look through all the board appointments, but there's just one person that, okay, he's on 2 boards.
Right.
But not this person on 2 boards, this person, this person, this
Yeah.
person. That's not kind of the fulfilling the promise to the people that is this policy. So I don't know if you want to change wording in there, or just accept how it's rewritten right now, and then kind of have a gentleman's agreement. But I would think we would want to put something in there that we're going to at least try not to. Some wording in there that we're gonna.
Okay, I'm seeing the
Number 9.
number 9, the multiple appointments. No person, the strikeout was shall. It's
Right.
I guess
Shall is
this
a legal word.
right means shall.
You
You
have
have
to.
no. You have
You have
to.
no right. Yeah.
So do you not? I mean, I feel like the should is a strong indicator of what you, as far as no person should be nominated or confirmed to a position on more than one board.
Right. I guess I would say, do we want to? I would prefer if we throw a little tagline in there to make it perfectly clear that we want to try not to, because another board looking at this 10 years from now may not understand what we were trying to do, as far as not make it a common practice.
Okay.
But that's my opinion. It's, I hate to see as many edits as there are, because I think it changes the meaning of the paper. But we'll hit those one at a time. So I'm not going to fight this one too hard, because I want to pick my battles.
Okay. Well, I had not seen the edits yet, so I'm going to actually defer on that. Let's go back to the beginning and work our way through in an organized way, because I think you're correct. Because it seems like we don't have. So it looks like we don't have any proposed edits to number 1, the purpose, so that I think all 3 of us are okay with that.
I don't have a lot of edits, period, because I think whoever wrote this did a pretty good job.
Then on to number 2, the types. That seems like just boilerplate stuff. This is what we're talking about. 3, and I don't want to move on because again, you may have some edits, or I know your edits. I'm learning your edits because they're in here.
If I got something, I'll stop you.
Okay. So 3, authority. Seems pretty straightforward. 4, appointments by Board of County Commissioners. That's, again, housekeeping, as far as that's the understanding. I think it's just stating the obvious. The appointment procedure.
Vacancies to be announced in that appointment procedure. It has 90 days, and I question whether that's enough time.
Okay.
Because we have to collect applications. We have to file through those applications. We have to make a motion. We have to come in here and make a resolution. It's got a blah, 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 blah. If you guys think we can hammer all that in 90 days, I'm fine with it. I just don't know that we can. Discussion.
Okay. One of my thoughts is, the idea behind it is, if we can do our appointments rather than rolling all the time and having to go through it, we look at it at the beginning of the year. we open that up, we put something in the paper saying these boards are open, we put it on our website, these are the dates they're gonna be open. We take applications for those positions a long time in ahead. So at least 90 days, because we can do it at 90
That
days.
makes sense if you're collecting everything in advance. I was thinking the same kind of thing, but I was thinking to adjust the ones we have in play now, that some end in November and some end in February, and manage to get them twice a year. So we have some that are due January 1st and some that are due July 1st. That way you're not reappointing the whole board all at one time, even if possible, and you're gonna have rolling years too. But to get the appointments we have, instead of broken up all throughout the calendar year for all the different various boards, try to just make it twice.
Some of those roll based on whether it's state dollars, federal dollars, where the grant's coming from, how that program works. Yeah, so I'm thinking like the Citizens Review Committee for the surfboard, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think I would be okay. I think, some of it, our hands are tied.
Well,
They-
if that's the
they're
case, that's the case.
Those are different, but I think for the ones that we do, I don't really have an issue with that. I think that's not a bad idea, because there's a lot of times there's confusion on the part of whatever the board is, where people don't even know when their
Some
term
expire on December 31st and some expire on January 1st.
first and all
And it's like,
that.
oh, and then there's some that expire on February 15th. And I'm also looking at it, that should make her job a heck of a lot easier. If there's just 2 periods that she's got to worry about this mess, and then I think we can hammer it in here in less meetings than talking about it too often, because we have more appointments coming up next month. That was kind of my thinking, is we can just hit one day and get all the appointments for that 6 month or whatever out of the way.
Right.
I would like to remind the board also, you have another component, and that would be your different departments.
Right.
Because they are the liaisons
Yeah,
that work with
quite
these
often.
boards. And a lot of the different departments also prepare their actual reappointment resolutions. So they do play a part in this as well.
No, that's fine. If we think it's better to leave it the way it is, I'm fine with that. Because we moved off from this 90-day prior thing to discussion on when we want to actually do them. And if it's going to be too messy to do them on January and July, then we'll just leave them where they are. And the 90-day wouldn't be an issue if we're collecting once or twice a year to add to the pool of applicants.
Yeah, I think for me, I'd like to have a discussion with it. I'm thinking of the planning department specifically. They staff some of the land use ones, and, it would be curious, because there may be some constraints on, for some of the departments, maybe their workloads are heavier certain times of the year or not. I don't know. So I would be curious. I would say the idea of, I like the idea. I can support the idea of, I think we should publish and we should gather applicants, all the time. I like the idea of, the 90-day, I'm fine with that, as far as I think that's a good idea, because I think part of it gets it out there, and it puts it on us too, because quite often we are doing appointments, as we all know, after the expiration,
Right.
Because it's like, where did this come from?
Well, that's how I was trying to get organization with
Yeah.
January 1st
Yeah.
and July 31st. We know, everybody knows, boards know, committees know. I'm sure it's like open space board is February 15th, and that's because Chris is probably backed up with tax stuff that she doesn't want to have to deal with it on January 1st or December 15th, or so there might be issues in there like that. But I don't know the procedure on, I guess I would say, who calls, who appoints, who, when you're dealing with planning and all that kind of mumbo jumbo. I'm just trying to make it a little cleaner.
Okay, Madam Clerk.
A little bit of history, like on the open space board, I think that date was established when that advisory board was created.
That's what I figured.
And so that's how that began.
A lot of those dates, I think, are probably going to end up being that way if we go look up the resolutions.
Right, there's at least.
Probably the same, the Veterans Advisory Board, because that was a new, we created that board.
And then it was rescinded and recreated.
Right.
So, yeah, I guess.
But I think I'm
It's just
supportive of
a
the
house-
idea. of
It's a
how we-
housekeeping thing for me to clean it up and make it less messy. And then you don't forget people, which is the main reason we're here.
Okay. So moving on with the rest of the vacancies to be announced, so we flip the page. I do see one blue edit or suggestion.
And they have it as 1 year, I believe, or had it as 1 year. And it'll discuss that later in this page. And Jake's adjusted it to 5. I don't know. I don't think 1's enough, but I think 5's too many.
So the reason I have 5 on there is so if we do applications, say for the planning department or the planning commission, and you put in your name and all your information, you go through the whole process, and we end up picking somebody else, then there might be, and you might be, the regular District 3 seat, one person from District 3, but you also have open seats. And so that application that you put in, and it's just on file so that in 5 years we can look to see, well, if this person turned in their application, are they still interested? It gives us a reason to keep it there. Then they could also be in the running for the open seat. So that's why I added the time, because it's more of like people can apply. I mean, there might not be an opening for 2 years, but if you're on the county website or 3 years, you're on the website, you're like, I'd really want to do this.
So you're trying to build up a deeper pool of applicants.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's not that I'm opposed to the 5 years. I'm just thinking 5 years, things change. Someone had a baby, they moved, and are we going to be digging through a bunch of old applicants that we're making phone calls and they're no longer interested in I don't know, I think newer, fresher is my approach. I think we're going to run into a lot of, I mean, at least the ones we don't know, a lot of that information is going to change. But again, this isn't a sticking point of mine. I'm not throwing a temper tantrum on this one either. So picking and choosing my battles and however you guys want to do this.
I'm hoping none of us are
Fine
going
with
to
me.
tantrums on it.
There might be one coming.
Oh, okay.
Fair warning.
Okay. I would,
I don't care. It's just thoughts. So.
yeah. Is it, I guess I'd look to staff.
Look to mom.
As far as the record keeping, as far as stretching the time out that far, is that gonna be an issue?
Staff is totally willing to change whatever we need to do.
That's such a.
With that said,
Yeah.
we probably down the road may come and ask for an additional FTE if needed. This is going to add more advertising budget,
Right.
as well as staff time monitoring, because I can see, like, when an applicant applies, we need to have a system of filing accessible to the board to go and review those.
Right.
Plus you have to monitor it. In the past, we've tried to keep track of the dates and remind the departments, your advisory board's going to expire, and get feedback from that department.
Well, that could be a problem too, because that's why I was thinking making it twice. That way it's boom, you have to work on this for a little bit and then you're done, at least for 6 months or whatever. But that could, I guess, make them too busy during that period of time too. So that's, I don't know.
Yeah, I would say for me, I think I like the idea of keeping the applications. I think 5 years might be a little, I think 1 year is too little.
Right. I think we're all unanimous that 1 year is not enough and 2 probably.
Because otherwise you're just
either.
doing it.
How's 3 years sound?
3 years, I was thinking 3 years seems like
That's where I was at, so.
Okay, let's do that.
And I would think we can modify or amend this later if we find problems.
Sure. Yeah, I always say that anything we do, a future us or others can change.
So then should we change the midterm vacancies to 3 years as well?
I did, just because I thought it was organized.
Okay, down through the rest of this section.
Anything else?
Methods for appointments might
Okay,
become an issue.
okay,
Because the one thing this doesn't have for methods of appointments kind of drops into, I guess you can look at next page, geographic representation, and this is my temper tantrum, by the way, just for
Okay.
learning. The change on there that the boards, commissions, and committees, a lot where they align with commissioner district, that commissioner will pick his or her top 3 candidates to take them to the whole board for consideration. I think that bypasses the weight that should be carried by the commissioner in that district for his or her appointees, which comes back to where I would put an add-on and method of appointment on the previous page. I don't want in any way, shape, or form, and this could be this current board and it could be any future board. Let's take for instance, Jake lost his race and Joanna is sitting in your seat. If Joanna wants to appoint or try to place, throw a name out there, Pat Arnold, to a board, I don't want some diehard conservative guy sitting in these 2 seats telling her no. She represents her people and she should be able to put her voice on that board. In the same regard on this board, I think I have a better understanding of District 3 than you guys do. You have a better understanding of your home districts. Yes, we serve the whole county, and I've never said I didn't. But I don't want the other commissioners outweighing a commissioner when that commissioner might have a different vision for his district than the other 2. You get kind of where I'm going for. I want to make sure, my idea is that I make a presentation to you of who I would like to see on that I think is qualified and has the vision. And if you guys think that person is not qualified or whatever, and you're willing to call that into question publicly, I have no problem with that. And if that's the case and they're not qualified, then boom, they're gone. And here's second nominee for consideration. I just don't want it to be easy for the district that's trying to represent that district and appoint somebody from that district to be overweighted by the other 2, whether it's this board or a future board. Because again, we're looking for a broad range of ideas, a broad range of citizen input, and not just people we know necessarily.
so how do we accomplish what you want that, because ultimately the appointments are board appointments, and
Right.
there's always going to be the opportunity to, overrule, veto, I guess, of
Right.
a sort.
Well, I guess
Understanding that it works,
Right.
it's always, 2 commissioners can always,
Right.
that's why it's a board of 3. And I'm not sure, like I do, and I'm fine. And it looks like I just saw some of this blue language is that it has always been our tradition that, the names for appointment for a vacancy in the district come from that commissioner. There is deference given to that, but ultimately,
Right.
the whole board decides
And
up or down.
And
on
I have
that.
no problem with that, but if we're appointing, I guess I would say that's the way it was. I would like to make that a little firmer language if possible.
Right.
But it looks like the direction this is going is no, I appoint, or I place 3 out, we have a discussion, and if I don't get to pick what order I want my 3, in other words, why are we even going to 3? There should be a 1 and a 2.
So the reason I wrote it that way is based on our previous conversation and trying to find that middle ground, because, you say you may know your district better, but we serve all of the citizens, not just our district. That's enshrined in law. And that's why it is a rule of 3. We show deference. And so if you bring Pat, her daughter, and her mom, no matter what, you're going to be getting one of those three. And so it is getting to that middle ground that you're picking the top
So I guess
three.
all I gotta do is bring
Right, two
one
terrible
guy
people.
and two homeless people, and I get my guy. Is that what you're saying?
That's one way to do it, but remember, it's gonna be public.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that gives the other board members a chance to review
I think,
those top three
and
applications.
I think a lot of that is gonna be on trust, and that could be built over time. But, I want to make sure that we're not giving a future board member the shaft. Because of that, that could take out what has been the long-standing indifference to that commissioner to pick someone. And if, as long as they're qualified, you rubber stamp. If they're not qualified, then let's have a discussion on why they're not qualified and bring me another candidate. I have no problem with that. But I think when you start getting into 3 applications, and then it's up for discussion, somebody's going to be trampled on. I could be wrong, but I see it open and available for that to happen, whether it's now or 10 years from now. And you have to think the demographics of this county is changing. There's 3 Republicans sitting up here today, where I don't think there's going to be in 15 years, and you could be the odd man out. And then you don't get any indifference to your district because you're outweighted. So there's that down the road option as well. So I guess I would say where I would like to keep the language on the previous page and maybe add a comment like we do now. We have a little bit of indifference to that guy committee. That's what I would have liked to add on this page. I think this statement not only takes that away, but takes it away quite drastically. It's the counter of that argument. You're in the middle. So.
I would say for me, I think it is, or at least part of the analysis of the board is not when we say, are they qualified? It's more than that for me, as far as can they do the job, but does it fit with the makeup of the whole board as far as whatever this board, I'm thinking the planning commission as an example, where we do try to have, I've said this before, we try to have diversity, not just of opinion, but of different industries that are represented. And it's just that's the opportunity for the board. So say in the circumstance where I have a vacancy that's in District 2 and I bring somebody and it's somebody I want on there, but they're kind of filling a box that's already on that board. And so should there be an opportunity for the board to have a discussion about, that I'm sure that person's good. They're highly qualified, but we already have somebody that fits that. And we really need somebody that has different experience. Can you bring us a different name? That's what I want to be able to preserve, not like, I'm the commissioner from District 2, and by God, you better appoint who I say, or I'm gonna be upset about it. It's like I can be upset about it, but I think there needs to be. That doesn't mean ultimately. I think those nominees come from the district. That is the and if we want to figure out a way to put that in the policy, because right now it's just unwritten.
Right.
You're correct, and I'm fine with that. Because I think you do need to put it down, but I think the names come, the nominees come from the district, but ultimately it is not the deference I think I get and should give is for bringing those names forward, not you get who you want regardless. I think there needs to be the ability for the board as a whole to say no. And I will remind you, anything that we put in here, if we're concerned about, demographic shift, change, anything we put a future board can get rid of and change. And it's like, it doesn't, understanding that policy, it does kind of show, well, this is why they did it that way. But we're talking about changing things that previous boards put into practice, and that's perfectly appropriate. So I
guess I would say the reason for this is because during my campaign in the entire county, not just District 3, because I do represent the entire county, the standard argument was made over and over and over again that they don't have a voice. No one they know serves on that board. It's clicky, you might say, and I'm trying to remove the clicky. So we can write this however we want. If our future appointments continue to be clicky, the public will not like the answer to that. So, you know, like I said, it's a board. Anything through here is a good thing if passed, regardless on changes. But I guess it comes down to what I was saying yesterday. The more words we write on a paper doesn't make it better. The less words we write on a paper is what make it better. We don't need 9,000 rules. And
I would argue the current thing that we have no words must be the best.
So I guess the other reason I put this in here with the top 3 is there's that same thing that you were talking about during it, the belief of nepotism, that your friends get appointed to the board, that you bring one name forward from your district. And by having 3 applications, that hits the transparency, the openness that I ran my campaign on, and that ensures that the entire board gets to look and have a discussion on those people. Now, those 3 people may be from the same clique, but still, then the board is going to choose the best person for that job, knowing that it's not just their experience, but it's also the makeup of the board and what we want these things to look like.
Well, how about this option? And I'm just throwing it out there. This is a little negotiation. How about we throw something in the verbiage, something to add like we've done with the carries a little weight coming from that district, and we change that number of 3 down to 2. You still get a little of what you want. I get a little of what I want. Any discussion on that one?
That also might be a more practical number, because it's, you know, I'm hopeful that we will, as we try to be better about recruitment, and we put it out there that we are going to have that you're going to have a whole bunch of people that you're able to submit names for. That has not been the case.
Right. And I understand where you're coming from, that even on the planning board, we kind of want one person with this background and one person with this background. But to me, it's more than just background, it's vision. And it may not be, well, let's look at your neck of the woods over there. You have 2 different visions in your neighborhood. One's for growth and one's for no growth. I have the same visions over here. And if we only have one side of that argument on that board, you might be okay with it, but I'm not okay with it over here. It's more than just who swings the hammer, who is an architect, who worked in planning. It's going to be vision for growth or no growth. And it's kind of the same thing we're dealing with in the solar thing right now. Half the people want growth and half don't. Vision has to come in the equation in there. And if all the people on, I don't know, I can keep talking forever, but anyway, that's kind of,
you're informing me. That's good.
That's kind of my thought process. And I think that's one of the reasons why the boards are so clicky, is because it comes from a particular vision, a vision from our county that one group has that another group doesn't necessarily have. And that's fine. I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying that doesn't necessarily make up a true citizens advisory board, then, does it?
Well, I mean, I would push back a little bit on the term clicky.
It was the best I could think.
Right. I mean, because I don't necessarily share that. I've served on lots of these boards, and yes, is there sort of a overriding vision as far as the direction of the county and that? Yes, there is, because those boards are representative of the dominant vision for the direction that the county goes for, and has been all along. That's that you do, if I'm the policymaker, I am going to appoint people. I am going to suggest people that share my vision of, and that is, the people are having a voice in that. They're exercising that voice when they elect me. And they're electing me because I have a certain view of the direction that I think this county should be going on. And the majority of the people agreed, otherwise I wouldn't be here.
Correct.
They agreed with your vision. They agreed with yours. The majority did. That doesn't mean the minority should be ignored and have no voice. I completely agree with that. So to say that's a clique then, though, I don't share that sentiment. I think that.
Well, I would pull back the term click, and I would pull down back the term, whatever I used, clicky or.
Right, and I'm not taking offense to that. I think that's,
that,
because I know
I was
you're passing on.
I was trying to make a point.
Right.
To the best that I could. So,
I would say ultimately the makeup of those boards are determined by who sits in these seats. And the voters can express their opinion on that. And if they want those boards to go in a different direction, then they always have the opportunity and do to let me know. And I do hear that as far as when we have vacancies, when we have stuff. I have heard that from folks that feel like their voice isn't being heard. They're like, hey, what about the, kind of the dissenting vote? And we have put people on boards specifically to have some of that other voice on there. But I also don't want these boards to turn into big political battlegrounds with people with really opposing
and that's where
philosophical points of view to where it's.
And that's where I think if we go there, the board might actually have to pull someone that was appointed. If we appoint someone and it turns into a debate at every meeting they go to. I don't mind trying to broaden the base, but if it gets into a political bitch session, I have no problem with the board, and I will nominate to pull the person that I asked to go on.
I guess having served on some of these boards as well, and a lot of boards over the years, for me, one of my things that I care about is somebody's going to put in the bloody time.
Right.
Some people have sat on these boards for a long time. Sometimes they come into the meeting and they haven't read the 300 pages that they're looking to get ready to do. And that means a lot to me. The people that are engaged, the ones that are going to ask the questions and ask the tough questions and get that stuff filtered out before it gets to us. I want most of those questions answered at that level.
I would agree.
And the people that I want, that I'm probably going to nominate are people that I know are going to do the work. Not clicky, not that. I do want to have, like you said, though, what we've been doing, like with planning for the last 20 years, isn't working. We get all of our project, everything's getting appealed. And I'm willing to try to do things differently to see if we can get a different outcome, because we spend an inordinate amount of money on lawyers.
Because things weren't ironed out before it came here.
With that stated, though, I know there's people that this is the way they want it and this is the only way it's going to be, and we're going to go to court, and that's fine. But I want to make sure that everybody feels like they were heard and that they had a voice at the table, and that their needs and questions were addressed. And I want somebody that serves on these boards to ask those tough questions.
So then back to we're having a great conversation, but I don't think we're getting to the point. I brought up the idea of knocking it from 3 down to 2 and putting a little bit of wordage in there that there was an indifference to I guess I would say I wanted, here's my two, this is my number one guy, and here's my number two guy.
So why don't we just say top two, ranked top two?
Ranked top two.
I'm fine with that.
I can do that. Do we have on there where the district?
I mean, I think you can bring more. I
ranks?
think you can bring more if you want. It's all, you know.
At least the top
At
ranking.
least I like that because because I'm hopeful maybe this new thing, you're gonna
Right.
get a whole
So-
slew of people and
At
they're,
least opens it up to more options if you
Right.
want them, as long as, and then if we can put some wording in there that the commissioner for that district brings those forward,
right,
where that isn't in here now.
right. I mean, are you okay with that as far as formalizing that, as far, because I think that is the.
Well,
practice.
my idea was ranked to begin with.
No, I mean, as far as that, because it is not in here and there is nothing that says that the nominees come from
The commissioner
the
from
commissioner from that district.
Well, I thought that was a good compromise. I mean,
I'm,
it's all gonna be on our drive. And I guarantee you, when something's coming up for appointment, I'm gonna go look down the Google Drive and say, planning commissioner, and then we've got a list of all of the applications that came in, and I'm gonna read it as the other commissioner. And then if it comes forward and it looks like somebody's bringing something that's straight nepotism,
right.
you're gonna hear it from me.
Well, ultimately, it is the board can choose to reject all
Applicants.
applicant, or I mean, it's right,
They can-
here's my top, and it'd
I
be
guess
like,
I would say that's-
choose again.
If that's what-
That has happened. We have done
that's
that.
fine. That's what I want to have happen. I want, if it's an appointment to my district, I want to make that appointment. If you guys want to outvote me on that appointment, you have every right to do so. I just don't want you pushing and prodding and taking without that district being able to put their people forward. First, you guys have the right to say, no, sorry, neither one of these two, but hey, I looked on the drive and Billy Bob's the best one. Well, hey, let's vote Billy Bob and overrule. You have that right. I just want it handled through that commissioner district first.
Right, yeah.
And I would like some wordage in there.
So
to
you agree
make
with
that happen.
adding it to bring his or her at least top two ranked
Right.
forward?
Right, as long as you put some of that, I didn't see where the commissioner from that district is the one that brings them forward.
Right, I think we need
The
some
commissioner
language.
for that district shall pick his or her top three candidates. So that's
Or submit his top two.
submit.
I like that.
Her submit his top two ranked candidates.
Yeah.
And then I'm good with that.
Wordsmithing, gotta love it in a public meeting.
Okay,
Let's
that's
go.
okay. This is just a draft.
Yeah, we're actually back a page. We skipped forward just for that conversation. I don't know that there's any more edits on there because we were on methods of appointment when I brought up whether we wanted it actually under methods of appointment or whether we wanted it back here under geographic representation. Your whole blue spiel.
Well, I put it under the geographic representation because there's a bunch of them that have no commissioner district.
Right,
So this is only for the ones that have.
Oh,
commissioner
we're gonna
district.
have that debate when we get there. Continue. Sorry, guys. I'm gonna need to give you guys coffee or Ritalin or something. I'm gonna drag you that.
That's fine.
Dude,
Okay.
we gotta go back up to the conflicts one and make sure that we're in agreement with that.
Conflict.
Yeah, that was in my notes when I had read through the first draft. Let me go back. That's all right, I can do it from memory.
Are you sure it's not on the next?
It was,
Oh, yeah, no. So that's the start of that next page. That's why I wanted to back this up.
It's the II, so
Yeah.
conflicts, county employees, including elected officials, was, and the original draft was persons that have been county employees or an elected official during the previous 12 months. And then, of course, if you have contract for services or anything.
What is the argument? Again, I did not write this. This
Right,
came
right.
from another county. We're modifying it. I want to know the reason why we're modifying it, I guess I'd say.
So, well, I can just say, most of our county employees are also
On boards.
on board. And most of our county employees are residents, and while they may work here, their voices still need to be heard and recognized.
Got it. Good enough. No future discussion by me. I'm good with the change.
And then, also on there, like, and or goods with the county are not eligible for appointment to county boards. If we have somebody
Where are
that's,
you, which one is that?
it's still on the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's why I put where a conflict of interest could occur.
Right.
There are, for example, the KC PDEA, we have
Sorry.
like Art, who's on there, who has a contract with the county, that we have contracts with Rubenko,
Right.
and that we put on there. And I think that that is a very valid board position to have somebody from Rubenko that is creating that, considering that a good portion of that money comes from Rubenko. And so that's why.
Well, I haven't seen the KCPDA give money to Rubenko.
But it says
So,
contracts.
well, yes, but we're diving into this a full year early. Understand, let's just put it that way.
So I think that the three commissioners can make the right choice, and we can determine if we feel if the person that's serving on the board can be fair or not, and whether their viewpoint should be heard or not. And I just trying to make it so that we have the most leeway as possible to do the right thing that we feel is. So that's why I changed it.
Okay, well,
Okay. If thoughts?
No, I agree. That was one of my thoughts I thought that was unworkable. I mean, the first language, because it's a small county. We do have folks, we have 280 FTE. That's a big
well,
group.
and I
of people.
thought the same thing, because I was reading this and Frank reached out about the nuisance board. And I'm like, I don't know if a county employee, especially the nuisance compliance officer.
But now
Can
that
sit
would
on
be an
that.
obvious conflict of interest.
Now that you're not, I understand, okay, fine, but this was, a while back.
Right.
And then I'm like, God, you need a 12-month period, and, so I'm fine with removing that.
Okay, and I assume somebody's drafting our compromise language later on.
Trying to keep up.
Okay. Reappointments,
We're kind of hopping around a bit.
and I'm trying to work our way down.
Right.
Okay, so reappointments, I don't really think I have any issue. I don't think we've ever felt like somebody had a vested right in reappointment. I think there should be no prohibition on reappointment, because quite often at least I do, I want people that have the institutional knowledge, that they can still do it. If the makeup, if it all still works, and they're, I am likely going to bring their name forward when it's time for reappointment, but I don't have any problem with saying there is no, because there never was a vested right at reappointment.
And that goes back into, I want to make sure that commissioner's weight is heard when he brings people forward. You can always outvote him and go back to Mr. Reappointment or Mrs. Reappointment, but that's a vote you get to have at that time.
Are you going to require that incumbent to reapply?
I don't have any issue with that, honestly. I mean, I think it will be a change, but I think just in the kind of philosophy and culture of these boards where
the questionnaire, I think we might gain more knowledge on that person than when their last one was done too.
You'll also have the history of that person's service on the
Right,
board.
right.
Given the nature of some of the interactions with the different board members and asking them to reapply, or asking them to not reapply if they're interested in reappointment. Sometimes it's like pulling teeth, just trying to get them to answer the phone. You may lose some members.
right.
I don't think they're gonna necessarily,
Want to fill out a piece of paper?
yeah.
Well, if they don't want to fill out a piece of paper, they're probably not as engaged on the board as we need them to be in the first place.
Well, some of them, like, I'm just saying, I just got done talking to all the open space people to see if they want it back on the board. And those guys, they really, really, really don't want to be sitting there. They just know somebody has to. So they do it because they're afraid of what the other choice would be. But yeah, if you tried to make some of those cowboys fill out a 3-page application, you're gonna have to send the sheriff down there to get it signed. So I can agree with some of her statement there. So that's something we need to consider, I think.
Okay. Because I did have some thoughts on the terms. Unless someone can convince me, I'm not an advocate for term limit, mandatory math. Well, I'm not, as far as you are term limited every time you reapply or every time you run for office, we are all subject to term limits. In our case, every 4 years.
I will give you some, I can understand that. I think the majority of the public does agree with term limits, but they continue to elect the same people for 35 years.
Right.
For instance, we have a board of equalization where we have a member on there that has been on for, I don't know what, 16 years or some crazy number. Okay.
No, he's relatively new.
Oh, and looking at his term thing, it goes back a long ways. And he moved, so he's not even in District 3 anymore. So there is no District 3 representative on that board. But he does have a huge foundational knowledge for that board.
Right. I am always saying that the board should make that determination, not be told what they can.
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's my argument right now, is that I'm not advocating for him to be removed because he's termed out and or living outside the district because of that institutional knowledge. If somebody came forward in District 3 that had that institutional knowledge that the assessor thought would be a great candidate, then we would have that discussion down the road. But there ain't one there now. So we do need that wiggle room to not have it set in stone. And that's where I'm agreeing with you, believe it or not. Your thoughts?
So everybody agrees that the terms look fine? It doesn't have term limits. It says where there is term limits that is set in statute or code. That's all that it says there. It says some boards, commissions.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a better read. I just went immediately to you're a 3-year, you got this, you got this. That's why it's
It's
good.
only on the
Good
required
to have
one.
detail.
Where are you at now? When you just read that?
Very top of that one. And then it also helps because, if an appointee is selected to fill the remainder of an unexpired term.
Yeah, where are you
reading?
The very first part of the page says terms.
No, well, you're
Right.
on a different page than us.
Go ahead.
No, but it says, you were talking about term limits. It says
Right.
some boards, commissions, and committees have maximum term limits established by adopted policy or code.
Okay.
And then it says where those terms are those term limits.
Oh, I see. So, yeah,
That's
so
what it
he's
says
saying
to them.
that if we don't have an adopted policy that has term limits, it really doesn't, none of this really applies. It would only be where there's,
Where there's term limits that are enshrined in RCW. like-
right.
See, I would like to, I don't know. I'm not gonna win this argument, but I at least want to
You never know.
to throw to throw the voice out there that I think term limits are good and fresh ideas are good. I don't know, maybe if I'm sitting here in 12 years, I might have a change of opinion, but it's kind of how I always thought. Fresh ideas are always good. So
And again, you can have fresh ideas all the time. There's nothing,
without
it's just
terms to force it.
without to force them. If the majority of the people
Let's
don't want, that's what bothers me
You guys are
about
moving
term.
along with me on this policy. I'm willing to scratch that. If the
So
future
the
board wants to add it, they can add it.
the other important thing to look here, Bud, is at the top of terms, it says when possible, terms will be set to expire at either year end or mid-year.
Right, that was where my original train of thought was at.
That's why it's in.
Right, and I'm fine with that.
And we might need to change the ones that are existing to get them to fall in line as they go.
So are you scratching that holes on number 6 terms? some boards and commissions that hold.
And you can leave it in there other
No,
than
that's
it,
supposed to stay.
I mean, it can stay, it's, although I guess you could. I mean, I guess you could argue, why are we leaving it if we don't have any
If you
boards
don't
that are
plan on
term?
using it, I
Don't we
wouldn't
have-
leave it
don't
in
we
there. I
have
think it's
some?
miss.
I sent Ibby or you a question. I said, do we have any boards that have term limits?
We do.
And we do. So that's why I wanted to leave it in. Because I was gonna scratch it originally, and then you said we have term limits on certain boards.
Just some,
And so that is
Okay.
why it needs. to
Okay,
be.
so we can just leave it there. And again, yeah,
So-
any future board, if they want to put term limits on planning commission
All of
members. or
these
board-
term limits then in here? I mean, I think that could come back to bite you. It'll come back to bite your argument, it won't come back to bite my argument.
Well, the only argument I would make is, do you have to have terms, do we even need the section? If the
Well,
term
I would-
limits are in statute or requirement, whether we have a policy or not on them, it's really
Well,
irrelevant.
I thought that was Dave's argument, is leave the first little paragraph and remove all of the explanation stuff behind it kind of thing. That if
Well,
it's
I
said in
was
statute, it's said
wanting
in
to strike
statute.
the whole thing, but. 'cause
Well, I would put it in
didn't
there that
see
if it's said in statute, it's said in statute, and then, but we don't have our own, which is what all this other stuff is.
So I think the other thing is appointments of less than 2 years chosen to fill an unexpired term shall not be considered as a term. So that's
Okay,
important.
that
to
is
realize
important.
For the things that have term limits. If an appointee is selected to fill the remainder of an unexpired term for 6 months or less, then their appointment shall be for the
Yeah, I
unexpired
agree.
term plus the next full term. That's important
That's
too.
important.
Right.
that would be very handy because sometimes,
It's a pain.
yeah, that would be great.
So
Okay,
I
I'm
think
good with leaving it
the
there.
answer to Dave's answer is the first two words, when possible.
Okay, I'm good with it then.
So number 6 stays.
Stays as is. Okay, removal of members.
I think this goes exactly to what I've tried to say with my whole thing, is if I feel somebody is unqualified, conflict of interest, has the wrong vision, is a jerk, throws a temper tantrum in a meeting, is political, whatever my argument is, I'm gonna bring it to you guys. I'm gonna explain my argument publicly. If you guys agree, fine, it comes off, that person comes off and we'll reappoint. If you don't agree, that person stays on. That's the way it should be. That's the way I think this is written.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the current practice.
Yep.
It is, anybody can. Understanding is you are stating one scenario, another scenario is your appointment is throwing temper tantrums and everything, and you don't want to remove them, but the other two do, they can.
Well, anybody, yeah, exactly. And I hope they would.
Or mine,
I hope.
I
they
have
would.
appointed a few,
Hotheads?
well, not, I mean, strongly opinionated.
Right,
that have
and
a strong
my worry
position.
is as we get this board a little broader, right now, if all these people that sit on these boards pretty much know each other, they're all kind of friends. As you throw a new person in there, whether it's a political party or live on the other side of the tracks, there could be some squabbling. And I know any of my appointments will have a personal conversation from myself that they better behave themselves and not squabble, or I will recommend their removal. But yes, that is possible.
Okay. I assume you're okay with that.
Remember, I already made all my comments.
Yeah, oh, that's true, that makes it easier.
Yeah, we're just editing whether we're editing his comments. or
Right,
not.
right, okay, attendance policy. Yeah, I agree with Jake on that. I don't think the failure to attend is an automatic removal. It certainly is
Opening
as you
for
said,
discussion.
it is, because I think we want people that are gonna do the work. And
That's
if
my point.
but maybe there's some extenuating circumstances.
If I bring somebody to the board or anybody brings somebody to the board that, hey, this guy only goes to half the meetings, how are they really being a citizen advocate for my county or my district when they only go to half the meetings, or your district, if you want to bring some of my guy to the table? That argument should be had, and whoever wants to defend only showing up to half the meetings.
Well,
Or for that
some
matter,
years-
what commissioner wants
some
to
years
show
you may
up
only
to half
have-
the meetings.
You may only have
Right. Yeah, well, honestly, what is it's 3 months, I mean, it's the same thing for us. I mean,
I could stay home and you guys could just sign this stuff.
yeah. No, after 3, I think I don't know, it's in statute. If
You're right.
you have abandoned your job
You would
and
be
you,
surprised at what that statute says, though. It's a funny one, but anyway, sorry.
yeah, I've read it.
Where I
It
was
was a while
going with
ago.
this is you may only have 2 meetings in a year, and if
Right.
you miss one of them,
You're-
That's why I'm 100% agree, and even though I guess this says shall attend, which means you must, but it never even left the words in here to kick them out. I think,
Well, maybe it should be,
well,
because I think
well, yes and no. My argument is whoever's gonna be on the board is gonna read this. And I think if it says shall, it's gonna stick a cattle prod in their butt to make the meeting. If we leave them the escape route of, oh, you won't get kicked off even if. We don't have to kick them off by the original wordage. But you might be throwing them a lifeline to miss a meeting by adding your wordage. If they say shall, they're gonna go, all right, I'm gonna show up.
Right, so
If
that's why I
you leave
said,
them the lifeline in
All right.
here, they might go,
all
well,
right,
yeah, but
we're
I
fighting
know that
over,
commissioner-
we're all on the same page. It's
We
good.
are, it's just, I think I think without adding the wordage, they don't automatically get kicked off. By adding the wordage, they might go less.
Okay,
That's my argument. Not that I care wordage or non-wordage, however you guys want to do it, I'm just giving.
so we're keeping the existing language plus the additional.
the main thing about the additional is we don't always connect with these. The part in there that I cared about is that if somebody misses most of their meetings, then somebody's gonna let Lee know,
Right.
and then that's gonna be a conversation for us to have. And
Right.
I'm all about.
So I think we're kind of battling semantics and 3 guys that are alphas and,
Okay. No, that's good. I'm good.
Number 8's good.
Number 8's good. Back to 9. Which I think maybe we had consensus on that with the language that was there. No person should be nominated. But I again, I have a problem with shall.
but I have no problem with removing shall. I just want to make sure that it's, I guess I would say, known that we really, you could put less reallys. Try not to. Because I just think there's a lot of people out there that are more than willing and more than capable if we look outside our group.
Right. That's fine, but I also want the flexibility. And again, the voters get to express their opinion every 4 years, since we don't have term limits. Other than we all have term limits every 4 years.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so I'm going to take that as we're okay, and we're going to move on. Conflict of interest,
So you're removing prohibition?
yes. Because there is no prohibition anymore.
Since you remove shall.
Shall, right. So good editing there.
So again, I'm not super happy about that,
Okay,
but this is a 3-person board.
it is. And when the voters change our minds, or change us, then there you
Or
go.
show up with pitchforks.
No, actually, I don't respond to that. No pitchforks. They can come with pitchforks.
They come with pitchforks as long as they're cleaning my barn.
There you go. Conflict of interest, I didn't see any issues with that. That's the public process. That's the boilerplate from the Open Public Meetings Act. The lobbying, yeah, I was curious, your edits, Jay,
Mhm.
unless,
If that adds in there, I would like it to say by the Board of County Commissioners.
Okay, yeah.
So it can't be construed
Right,
as one.
right.
I don't.
And I would say from a practical standpoint, I know this, although lobby, I never know what the legal definition of lobbying is. Because we certainly have staff members, we have education, we have staff members, we have directors that I know that go and educate certain members of the legislature on things and.
I think, right, but I think this is, I like the added language with the board thing, because anybody appointed to one of these is gonna read this. I would hope it would be in their little handout. And it's gonna kind of tell them a little better what they can, cannot, or should not be doing.
Right, because we don't want board boards and commission members without authorization.
Representing the county.
Right, unless I agree.
Unless what they're pushing has already been agreed to by the board.
Right, well, again, just check back in and make sure it's okay, because you may not know, because there are lobbying, education, whatever efforts that are going on all the time.
That's what I said.
And the board should know what all those efforts are so that they're coordinated and there isn't a conflict. Because the worst thing that can happen, and it doesn't have to be just the legislature, but that's the easiest example to go, where you're at a hearing and I may be testifying in favor of something that I have some person from Klickitat County that's on a board that we appointed that signed in opposition to the county's position.
And they should be
And
able
it's
to
like,
do that
oh, personally, that's fine.
But
I
you
have
better run it through the board of county commissioners, not just your commissioner,
right,
because then it might be different than.
right.
So that's like I said, I
So
like
no,
the change, add board.
Okay, I'm good
Or
with
board
that.
of.
Okay, records, I didn't see any problems with that.
I think we're cruising now.
Meeting location. Yeah. Are you okay with Jake's edits?
I'm good with everything from here on out.
Compensation, yeah, sorry, nobody.
Burrito.
Yeah. Nobody, a burrito.
You shall be responsible for.
I was a little curious about 17. I hadn't really had on legal counsel. I did not have a chance to visit with the prosecutor.
Who's on right there, you can read it to him.
Is there, if he had any issues, because I know there's no issues with this language, I don't think. It's like, this just recognizes that the county prosecutor is the legal counsel and there is nobody
I
else.
just don't know if we want to have wordage in there that our appointments don't just get a runoff to the prosecutor.
Exactly, that's
They need
the
to bring it
question.
through the board to go get the legal advice. And so that's what I'm saying. If you want to add something to that.
Is the prosecutor
The
on?
prosecutor is on the line.
Okay,
Generally, your boards and commissions are gonna go through their
Director.
staff
Right.
liaison.
Liaison, right.
And that person would come to the board, because they're usually here.
Right.
Or your
And they would
boards
come to
and
the
commissions
board
are-
and then we would say, yes, let's
Yeah.
get the prosecutor, right?
Yeah.
again though, but I don't know, that's just by practice, there's no written policy that says that, or is there?
Unless you put it in
Not that I'm
here.
aware of a written policy.
Well, that's what I was
been-
curious, if the prosecutor, do you want us to have some, I don't know that that's been a problem. I think with boards and commission members, because I think there sometimes is a misunderstanding what the prosecutor's role as legal, it's a different role than people think of as your attorney.
Right.
Like if I have an attorney, I'm in charge and.
I guess I would say my worry is if we don't put something in there that says bring it before the board, some person on one of these committees is gonna read that going, hey, I can't just contact the prosecutor.
Right.
Because we just told them, we didn't tell them they couldn't.
Right.
We need to kind of tell them they can't without going through us, just because they don't know right now, but if they go reading this,
Right, that was my concern.
They
This
might
is,
be
this is
misguided.
accurate, but they may get the misunderstanding.
Right.
It's like, oh, I have legal counsel.
so that's why I was saying,
I
yes.
can just
The
go
most
talk
important
to
thing
them.
I see about it is that it's saying that is the legal counsel and you're not gonna use any other counsel.
Right, which,
But if you wanted to add, my point is, I guess if you wanted to add language to it, that yes, that is the legal counsel. But before contacting them, you bring it before the board. If you want to, fine. If you're fine with the way it is, fine. If, however you guys want to do it.
Their director or elected should be managing those boards and commissions and advising
And
them
advising them
what.
not to go.
And I guess I'm
the
fine with leaving it, because if there is an issue, the PA is gonna push back.
And if we ever have that issue, the PA is going to scream at us and we'll go add some words to this.
You are having people starting to come on for the Board of Health.
Okay.
This is taking way longer than I expected.
Oh, there's.
I think it's discussions you guys need, and I am just so excited that these discussions are happening.
Okay, we're on the last section, that's staff, number 18, staff liaisons.
Well, that's why she started buttering us up, because she's staff. She wants a cookie today.
No, I don't.
I don't know, I
I
didn't
don't
have any
problems
issues with it.
no. There wasn't much in here. I think it was Douglas County that originally started this. I think
Yeah.
they vetted this pretty darn good. A
Okay,
few county tweaks and we're good to go.
okay, with that, if the clerk has, hopefully can end up with a clean copy of
Right, I
the
will
edits for the,
fix all this and send it back out to you guys for your review. We could have this prepared for approval next Tuesday. I've asked Abby to hold off on finishing the packet so we can do any other changes that might relate to this discussion.
can you though also send it to the PA so
Yes.
for review?
It has not been sent at this point and not been reviewed at all.
What do you say?
It's not been reviewed by the PA.
Okay, that's
Like
what,
I said,
yeah,
we don't have to rush this through the
No,
next
we're-
week's packet.
Okay, we'll put it out maybe until the.
Yeah, I want to make sure that, yeah.
Okay,
Well, do you have some time to review it there, PA?
As I find time, I will prioritize, but it's not going to be done by next week.
Right, all right, thank
That's
you.
that's what I want to do. I want to make sure that we're not rushing you on this, you're a busy man. So, we'll forward it to you, look it over and give it back to us when you have time.
this was your first real discussion about this document. Just, I mean, this is a process, just like many things that you guys are
Well,
going to be doing.
And I kind of expected a few locals to be listening for this, but maybe we didn't have that. They knew the Board of Health meeting, but I don't know that everybody knew this was being discussed.
It
so
was
I-
on the agenda,
Was it okay?
yes.
Okay.
Before Board of Health,
We are starting at
recess.
10, so we are going to, actually, we will be done. So we will be adjourning, because the Board of Health is not the Board of
Separate deal,
Commissioners.
yeah.
Right, I got a couple things.
Did we have any, yeah, before, I want to allow at least 5 minutes for
Yeah,
down the hall
I
business.
agree.
Thank you, gentlemen, by the way.
There are a few, I wanted to double check with you. We have a few appointments that need to be reappointed now. Is it okay to move forward? The one would be for the Planning Commission. Mr. Christopher has a person in mind to replace one of the Planning Commissions.
That's the application or the resume I gave to you a week or two ago.
Right, if we can move forward with that, or if you want to hold off. And then there's a Board of Adjustment appointment in Commissioner District 2, and she is willing to be reappointed, and that's Nissa Hoover.
When does that term expire?
I have to go back and double check. I think it did the first of this year.
I would say we just rush these through, because by the time we hammer this out, you go do a 90-day application process. We're into March, April.
These boards do need to function.
Right.
Yeah, I would say, just like I did with the open space board, just put them through and we'll adopt this as it gets in play and move forward. But that would be my thing, but we would need to vote on those. So your thoughts?
I think this thing's pretty much done, except for anything the PA has on it. I think Lee has a really good start for the application, and I think this would be a perfectly good example to get that application online, and we can do some marketing, and then it's 21 days, not 90 days. I mean, our goal is 90, but it's open for 21 days. I think if we have it
right, but
open for
we had a 90-day in advance of the opening is what's in there, and we haven't done that.
Right. But that's in advance of the opening. It's already open though. Because it's expired. And so I would say we would just need the 21 to take applications.
Well, my view is, put these two through and move on with the new policy after this. His is to start with the news policy now. Dave, you're the middleman, pick a side.
I want these boards to function, but I'm also where.
And if we're doing that, we probably shouldn't have done that with the open space board either. We should have did applications for the open space board. Right. It comes up February 15th. But I was under the impression from the board that we wanted to make these boards function.
Well, I know the planning commission doesn't have a meeting right now, so I'm not
Right.
worried about
So I'm
that.
not worried about that.
And then Board of Adjustment, the next thing.
Either did open space.
Yeah.
So I just want to be well-rounded and not pick and choose. So anyway, my argument's been made, Jake's argument's been made.
Your choice, Chair. We're running out of time to you.
Yeah, we are. So I'm gonna say, I think this policy is ready to go, sounds like, and I think we can, so yeah, I think we can, let's go ahead and institute it. I don't think it's gonna make any big difference. I think we can, I think we should open it up and get our stuff. And like you said, 21 days is fine. See if there's any applicants. I don't know as far as with your planning commission member, I think you've kind of already went through it. But maybe maybe there's somebody else will apply that might change your mind on your ranking.
There was other people.
Yeah, there was other, that's all. And I guess same thing with the Board of Adjustment with Mrs. So yeah, let's go ahead and.
So we're gonna go through the process.
Right,
So now will your staff be the one to notify these individuals and say you need to reapply? Or would that be the liaison?
With the open safe board, I called them. I kind of like having the conversation with that commissioner's appointments to remind them to reapply or whatever, but that's, if you guys want staff to do it, that's fine. I would just like the option to do that.
Yeah, I think it's always that way anyway. Like sometimes staff reaches out, sometimes
I didn't mean in general,
Right,
as
right,
the
right,
policy, I
right.
meant for this particular.
specific ones,
these
because we have
specific
these
ones right
these
now.
roles right now.
It's great that the board is contacting their appointees and,
Right.
that's.
I mean, I'll say for me, I'll contact, as far as on the Board of Adjustment with, as far as, but I think we do need to put the advertisement out there too. Like, fly it and see if there's.
And my other option is.
That's usually, nobody wants.
Since we're pushing this so fast, I also thought when we do put the advertisement in the local paper that we don't bury it in the classified legal section, because we don't have to. By statute, it doesn't have to go in
No,
legals. We can have a little ad.
I think the better thing to do is to talk to Lou and have him write an article on it.
That would be good. I'm gonna use my chair's authority and we are adjourning.
Adjourned.
I'm getting out of here.
And I'm gonna.
Yeah, just, I guess we're adjourned. I can't say.